Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mythic 0 to Dungeon Hero, where we take a brand new baby healer and level them all the way up to 2500 rating in Dragonflight Season 1. Here in Episode 3, we're going to be taking a look at the key range 15 to 19, and specifically looking at how to handle big damage events. So, let's get into it. So we've grabbed our KSM and we're ready to start pushing into some bigger keys. In the previous episode, we talked about the 9 to 13 range being Keystone Hell. And now that we've worked our way out of that range, we get to start focusing our healing more on the unavoidable damage going out, which is starting to ramp up pretty quickly, by the way, and less on people playing like absolute degenerate maniacs and getting hit by everything. Thankfully, we're starting to get to the point where playing like that will generally just get people one shot and feeling stupid. Now the real healing begins. Moving into the 15 to the 19 range was actually a lot of fun for me. These runs started to take on more the shape of what I was used to in higher keys, just a little bit more forgiving. I continued with my strategy of focusing on doing the dungeons with the lowest score first, which allowed me to get my rating up pretty quickly. By making sure I didn't have any big holes in my dungeon score, I was able to get to about 2400 rating, with mostly 17 and 18 keys timed in every dungeon. After the Valor cap went away, I freely spent Valor on tier pieces and anything else that was best in slot, especially trinkets, and as soon as I was comfortable with it, I never did keys below a 16 to make sure I was farming as much focus primals as I could to upgrade my crafted gear. I really like to go after weapon here first unless you get lucky out of the vault, because weapon is your biggest throughput slot and upgrading a weapon with Valor is incredibly expensive. After that, it was always my lariat necklace, followed by whatever slots needed the item level boost the most. I had spent all my catalyst charges on force set, valored up my tier pieces, and even got lucky enough to replace my last blue item of pants out of the vault, and I was finally feeling like a real boy, ready to tackle some bigger keys. Although Priest is not really a meta pick, I didn't have much trouble at all finding groups as a healer. I really enjoyed playing Disc after playing so much Evoker and Druid because they have such different strengths. Your 4-piece power word shields are really beefy and great to pop on someone before they're going to take a single target hit, and for sustaining your tank as well as yourself. The Squid Priest build really is awesome for maintaining your mana throughout a run, and as my item level got higher, I was doing some pretty respectable damage. The buffs to Radiance definitely have made it easier to catch up on healing if you fall behind, but Disc is still a healer that wants to keep ahead of the damage and not let people drop critically low without warning. Having Mass Dispel is so amazing as well. It's sometimes hard to remember how I managed without it. This spell just negates so many mechanics and it feels great to throw out there. If you want to see full Disc Priest runs, I'll link some of my stream VODs in the description below for your viewing enjoyment. Hey, hi there, did I mention that I stream here on YouTube Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 9 p.m. Pacific? Oh, I didn't? Okay, so I stream here on YouTube Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 9 p.m. Pacific. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. We wear hats. It's great. I found some aspects of my UI lacking for Disc a little bit at this point, so I made some changes that I felt like helped my gameplay a little bit. I dragged my DBM boss timers closer to the center of the screen so I would be that much more aware of when big incoming damage was about to hit, as there's a little more extra preparation to do as Disc Priest compared to the other specs I've been playing. I also felt like I wanted to make some changes to my nameplates, so I got this add-on KUI nameplate. I like these nameplates because higher health targets were in deep red, which was ideal for me to target with my burst. Mobs in execute range were in white, which is great for using Shadow Word Death and picking off a few extra torments with my Mindbender. It also made it a little bit more clear when trash mobs had a big cast going out. All parts of my UI are available to channel members, so check out that join button below for all the add-ons and import strings for the profiles that I use in these videos. For a new healer, the amount of damage that goes out in Dragonflight dungeons can be pretty intimidating. Hell, as someone who was doing keys in the mid-20s in Shadowlands, it was pretty intimidating to me too, and sometimes it still is. But what you'll realize as you do more and more dungeons is that Dragonflight damage comes out in very predictable ways. You really shouldn't be caught off guard by most big damage events, which means as a healer your job is to know how to plan for these events. You're going to need to know multiple ways to handle them too, because abilities have cooldowns. Then the second part of the equation is being able to execute your plan. The better you get at this, the higher you'll be able to push. So let's look at how a couple of healers plan for big damage. In this series we've focused on Discipline Priest, so we'll continue to look at that spec. Disc, more so than any other healer, fits the mold of needing to plan for incoming damage, as it's not that great at healing reactively. Let's imagine a boss like the second boss in Ruby Life Pools. As a healer, this can be a tough boss, but what you have to actually do is pretty clear. You're going to have to heal your party up through an Inferno cast every time an elemental spawns, and you're going to have to help your tank survive searing blows, the Tank Buster. Of course, there's a movement and dodging component as well, but your healing pattern is really clear-cut. For Disc, I want to have atonements out on everyone before the Inferno cast, as well as another cooldown rolling to help keep my teammates up. Since Rapture is a 1.5-minute cooldown, I'd choose to use it on the first Inferno because I'll likely get to do it again toward the end of the fight. So as soon as this elemental starts to spawn, I know there's big damage coming soon, and Atonement lasts for 15 seconds. So I Rapture and shield everyone, pop my Mindbender, Shadow Covenant, cast Schism, and try my best to time it so that the meat of my damage window is going out during the peak of the Inferno damage. And as you can see, we make it through the first phase with no trouble at all. For the second phase, I'll try and get some atonements out on everyone as the elemental spawns, throw my barrier into melee, and again do my best to time my big damage for when Inferno is at its peak. The nice thing about this 15 to 18 range is that generally you don't need to be perfect. If you've got the right idea at least, usually your group will survive, though it may take some work to get the bars up and stable again if you make some mistakes. For Disc, it's going to be pretty much rinse and repeat from here on this boss. I know this series has been Disc focused, but just to give you an idea of how it would work on another healer, let's talk Preservation Evoker for a second. On Evoker, I'm going to want to get Echoes out on my team before the Inferno casts, and then when it goes out, I might use Stasis to capture a Verdant Embrace, Dream Wrath, Spirit Bloom combo. I can hold this Stasis for the next Inferno, which usually times out very nicely. From there, I can use a Rewind on the next one. I can use a Verdant Embrace, Emerald Communion combo after that. Honestly, Preservation has a ridiculous amount of tools for these situations, which is part of what makes it so good. The main thing is already knowing what you're going to be doing to handle each phase before it goes out. You don't want to be making these decisions on the fly. Anyway, every healer has these plans they can follow, and while different bosses might have slightly different patterns and require different amounts of movement, knowing how you're supposed to react to big damage events is probably the most important part of breaking into that medium-high key range in Dragonflight. Obviously, when you talk about it like this, it sounds super easy, and the challenge in-game is executing it correctly while performing whatever other mechanics are asked of you. Definitely becomes easier to focus on the mechanics of a fight if you've got your healing plan nailed down tight, and with repetition, this will become second nature. So whatever healer you choose to play, make sure you know the different ways you can deal with big incoming damage, and then think about which one of these makes the most sense for different boss phases or difficult trash packs. This frees up your brain to do other things like focus on mechanics, use your utility spells, or do damage. You shouldn't be constantly playing reactively, getting surprised by everything, even if your spec is an actual reactive healer. Learn when the damage is coming and have a plan to take care of it ASAP. I really think that by focusing on this in particular, you'll do well in this 15 to 19 key range where damage is starting to really ramp up quite a bit, but is still usually non-lethal. Well, that's going to do it for episode 3 of Mythic 0 to Dungeon Hero. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. If you're looking for previous episodes, they'll be linked in the description below. If you made it this far, I always appreciate a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to see more of my content in the future, and stay tuned next time where we hopefully finally complete our goal of reaching 2,500 ratings. So until then, happy healing.